Wow, stories.
My dad pay off my fiancé to leave town. After he cheated, I, 32-year-old female, had been dating a wonderful 42-year-old male. Man for 1.5 years when he proposed. Until that point, our relationship had been nothing short of magical. This man is a business owner, inspirational speaker, admired by the community, and loves me fearlessly. He also loved my family, and everyone seemed excited about the engagement. That is, until my dad asked to meet with him one-on-one. They had what sounded like a normal chat, but my dad is also a businessman and asked my fiancé some business-related questions, one of which, when fact-checked later, didn't line up with my fiancé's answer. This got my dad concerned with my fiancé's truthfulness. Fast forward a few months, and my fiancé's businesses are going through a rough period. This is the first rough patch he's had since starting the business 3 years ago. He begins looking into loan options to help float through the tough period into the busy summer season. One of the loans he could immediately qualify for requires a co-signer. He talks to me about all the loans and his options for co-signers, and asks if I would feel comfortable as an option. I tell him I'd need to speak to my dad, who advises me on all big financial decisions. That day, while my fiancé is at work, I call my dad and talk to him about it, as I was under the impression this loan needed to be applied for as soon as possible. My dad advises me not to co-sign anything, not to advance any funds, and alerts me to the conversation where my fiancé had not been forthcoming about his business with my dad. Within a few weeks and several individual meetings between my dad and my fiancé, and my dad and myself, my dad tells me that he can no longer emotionally support our relationship, and if we move forward with the wedding, I will be disinherited. I come from a degree of wealth, and my fiancé does not. This has never been an issue for us. But for my dad growing older, he seems to be increasingly concerned with where his money ends up after he passes. For reference, we also had a prenuptial agreement in process, but even with that, my dad disapproves. At first, I found my dad's actions to be extremely controlling over my personal life choices. It's not just about the money. Me and my dad are very close, and by taking these actions, he's taking away a lot more than money. My dream of having my dad walk me down the aisle, family gatherings, a relationship between any children we have, and their grandfather. So much would be so complicated and hard, I found the whole situation heartbreaking. I met with my dad after his decision was made, and it turns out he had hired a private investigator and found out that my fiancé had been living off his credit cards for the past few months, which I didn't know. I thought about all the dinners, gifts, and a vacation that had happened during those months, and was in shock that all of that had been on credit cards. But who am I to judge? My fiancé takes care of me, emotionally and financially. He pays for everything. The bills, dates, everything. He comes off as a provider, but the credit card situation and the loan situation. I felt like I couldn't see things clearly because we were living together. So I decided to move out. I own a condo that was empty. I moved back into. Since I moved out, we have been going on dates, staying the night together 1 to 2 times a week. I still wear my ring, although we have no plans to marry anymore. I still see my dad about once a week, and we don't talk about my love life. In this situation, I can't tell if my dad is being controlling and judgmental over my relationship with someone who does not come from money, or if he is truly concerned that I'm in a bad situation with someone who lacks integrity and financial stability. I can surely say this is the roughest life chapter I've experienced. With the 2 men I love most in this world at odds with each other, it has been ripping me apart. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. My fiancé had been living off his credit cards for the past few months, which I didn't know. I thought about all the dinners, gifts, and vacation that had happened during those months, and was in shock that all of that had been on credit cards. But who am I to judge? You're the fiancé. You have to judge. It's your future. He's not paying for everything if it's going on the credit card. How much is his credit card debt, and what is his plan to pay it off? A variety of factors can tell you someone's socioeconomic status. I'm sure he didn't find you in a shack. Am I blinded by love? You certainly have fallen for someone who is committed and will continue to commit financial infidelity. And I'm surprised that you could be so blasé about it. Are you trying to be with someone who's the opposite of your father? Comment 2. I don't get it, honestly. This guy very clearly targeted a rich girl, conned her into thinking he was financially stable by maxing out his credit cards, and then hit you up for cash. Your dad very smartly detected that he was lying to you. This is financial infidelity, and proved it to you. And you were clearly upset enough to move out, but you didn't break up with the guy who was very obviously attempting to con you. You still trust this guy for some reason, despite all of the evidence being perfectly clear that he's not trustworthy at all? It's a pretty weird life decision to date a proven liar and con man. I think your dad made a good call, deciding that you can't be trusted with his money, because clearly you can't. You make bad decisions. I'd suggest you get some therapy. I don't really understand the hold this guy has over you. There must be some psychological stuff going on. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around. Things took a turn for the worse. The other day, my fiancé showed up at my condo unannounced. He was all smiles, said he had great news. Turns out, he managed to secure a loan without needing a co-signer. I was relieved, but something felt off. He was too happy, almost like he was hiding something. I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was just being paranoid because of everything with my dad. But then, my dad called me, sounding more serious than ever. He said he needed to see me right away. When I got to his place, he had this look on his face, like he was about to drop a news. And he did. He showed me photos the private investigator took of my fiancé with another woman. They were holding hands, laughing, looking like a couple. My heart sank. I confronted my fiancé about it, and he swore it was a business partner from out of town, nothing more. I wanted to believe him, so I did. I told my dad he was wrong, that it was all a misunderstanding. The next day, my fiancé asked me to celebrate his new loan at a fancy dinner. It was like old times, and for a moment I forgot all the drama. After dinner, he dropped me off at my condo and said he had to meet a client. I didn't think much of it until later that night, when I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a woman claiming to be my fiancé's business partner. She said she was sorry, but felt I needed to know the truth. She admitted they were having an affair, and that the loan he got was partly thanks to her connections. She even said he promised to leave me for her once he sorted out his finances. I was a mess. I didn't know what to do. I called my dad, and he said he'd take care of everything. He met with my fiancé the next day and offered him a deal. If he left town and me alone, my dad would pay off his debts. My fiancé took the deal. He left without saying goodbye, just a text saying he was sorry and that it was for the best. I felt betrayed, not just by my fiancé, but by my dad too. He had manipulated the situation, but I couldn't help feeling like he had saved me from a worse fate. I was angry, hurt, and confused. I had made the wrong choice by trusting my fiancé over my dad, and now I was paying the price. The aftermath was quiet. Too quiet. I stayed in my condo, trying to piece my life back together. My dad kept checking in on me, but we never talked about what happened. It was like an unspoken agreement to just move forward. Then, out of nowhere, my dad's health took a turn for the worse. He had a stroke and was in the hospital for days. I was by his side the whole time, feeling guilty for ever doubting him. When he finally woke up, he couldn't speak. The doctor said it might be permanent. I was devastated. My dad, the man who always had the right words, now couldn't say a thing. I realized then that my dad had been trying to protect me in his own way. He might have gone about it the wrong way, but he did it because he cared. And now, with him lying in that hospital bed, I felt like I had lost my guide.